Midwest, home sweet home in good old Indiana, place of small towns, cozy families gathered together, and fields of corn and rustic woods. But, like any town, there is a dark underbelly that often goes unnoted. We are part of that darkness. We lurk in the shadows to bring you the best in horror, metal, and stories of the grotesque. This is Blood in the Cornfields.
All right, welcome everyone to Blood in the Cornfields. Today, it's going to be a little bit different than some of the other ones we've kind of had before, the episodes we've had before. This one's going to be true crime. I know I'm excited about this one, but before we kind of get into stuff, I am always as Marc, and I have with me...
Well, I am Ivy, and this is going to be a very interesting topic to cover. Be prepared, all of you.
And I'm Luke, and I'm basically just going to sit back, and if I have anything interesting to say, I'll say it. This is really their show today.
But there's definitely spots where commenting, you'll, especially with my story at least, I feel it's pretty crazy. So with that being said, any of you out there, this is going to be a little bit harsh, a little bit of kind of brutal stuff. If you're sensitive to, I know with mine, children, anything with children and abuse and that sort of stuff, you might want to be ready for this one. I'm actually going to be starting us off. I'm going to be talking about Belle Gunness. To me, probably one of the most famous right in the area where we live. Interesting stuff. I really like digging into this because I didn't know kind of all of everything that really went on. It's got a cool mystery twist. It's got like some different things you might not expect. Fair warning, I'm going to be butchering some names here. My Elkhart County education does not allow me to pronounce a lot of names correctly. So, bear with us. But this, we've got some interesting stories for y'all, so I think you should enjoy this. All right, well, I will get us started. So like I said, I'm doing Belle Gunness. With her, she was born Brandhild Paulsdatter.
That name.
Yes, one of many that I'll be talking about. So Brandhild, a.k.a. Belle, was born on November 11th, 1859.
Oh, Jesus, she's a Scorpio too?
Mm-hmm, in Selbu, Norway. Which I
What?
Yes.
She's from Norway?
Mm-hmm.
Viking blood runs deep in her.
I have Norwegian blood in me. I have Norwegian family members. So she was the youngest daughter of 8 children. She was raised on a small farm. Because growing up on a small farm, Belle was very strong. She was also standing 5'9" and weighing over 200 pounds. And that definitely plays into, her story a little bit. When she was 18 and pregnant, she attended a country dance. And while there, a man kicked her in the abdomen, causing her to have a miscarriage.
Oh, yeah. That's so sad.
Pretty brutal. And I kind of wonder what that may have played into everything,
No kidding. I wonder how far along she was. Regardless, it's still sad.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't see that. It sounds like from... how she was in her life, she probably hid it, if I'm guessing. So I'm imagining she wasn't too far along, just by some of her actions, like throughout the story that I'll kind of get into. The attacker came from a wealthy family, so he was never prosecuted. After that, locals around town said that Belle's personality changed.
So, quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
Did he purposely do that to her at a dance, or was it an accident?
I'm not sure. This story is very old, obviously, as she was born in 1859. Mm-hmm. So a lot of alternating details was really hard to come by.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, and you'll see throughout, there's a lot of deaths that were not exactly solidified, positively. So there's a lot of kind of missing and varying information and stuff
makes
like that.
Sense, yeah.
A short while later, the man that actually kicked her died from stomach cancer. I thought that was really interesting.
Karma's a bitch.
Exactly. After that, she would go on to be a servant for a wealthy farm for the next several years. In 1881, she followed her sister and migrated to America. She started going by Belle instead of Brandhild when she moved to the United States.
Anyone with their right sense of mind would do that.
Exactly. Yes, I think so. She made her way to Chicago and worked as a servant as well. In 1884, Belle married, this guy's name's awesome, Mads Albert Sorensen in Chicago.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, Mads is his first name. Pretty sweet. 2 years after they married, they opened up a candy store that failed within a few years. Shortly after the store failed, their house mysteriously burned down. So that is a theme that follows this woman so much. So much. Kind of just showing things to start with, definitely. The couple collected insurance money and bought a new home. Also a theme for Belle. The couple had 4 children. Pretty sweet names here. Caroline, Axel, Myrtle, and Lucy.
I love Myrtle. No.
I like Axel. I thought that was...
Axel's pretty cool too.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Caroline and Axel died as infants.
Oh.
Yeah, they both died from colitis, I believe is what it is. And the symptoms are actually nausea, fever, diarrhea, and lower abdominal pain. And the reason I noted this is because that's a common symptom for most poisonings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the couple collected insurance policies on both children. Kind of interesting.
That
Who has insurance
sounds
policies on infants? I thought, yeah,
Right.
oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of sketchy shit.
That's really sketchy. Oh, my children just so happened to die. Give me money now.
Yeah, monies. At some point, the family adopted a 10-year-old girl named Morgan Couch. On July 30th, 1900, Albert Sorensen died. This is so sketchy. Okay, you'll love this. Okay, let me repeat it. So on July 30th, 1900, Albert Sorensen died on the day that his 2 life insurance policies overlapped. Suspect?
Interesting.
Could we be a little inconspicuous, Belle? Could we, maybe just go for one insurance policy?
No, we can't do that. We need money.
That even legally works.
Right?
I thought that was crazy. So the first doctor to see how he died, the first doctor to see him thought he died from strychnine poisoning. However, the Sorensen family doctor treated him for an enlarged heart, and the doctor concluded that the death had been related to heart failure. Yeah, interesting. An autopsy was considered unnecessary because the death was thought to not be suspicious because they did end up ruling it as heart failure. So I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense, just saying from like a funeral director's perspective. Yeah, if somebody had like a lot of medical health issues, typically an autopsy is not done. The only time an autopsy is ever done, who knows what it was like back then.
Yep.
Typically, only when that's done is if they deem it suspicious.
Yeah, and so the thing also, too, is like, with that being said, her husband's family demanded an inquiry and investigation to be launched, but it wasn't. Like, it never was. And that's kind of a theme here is like, Belle had to be a very charming woman because she weasels out of so much shit that's not even funny. Like, she is an absolute charmer.
And that also makes me wonder, again, coming from a funeral director mind, is like, in Indiana, like now, they actually, if you the family demands to have an autopsy, you are the ones that have to pay for it. And that can be anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000. So I don't know if it was like that back then, but that would make sense why she would get scot clean of that, But
yeah, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, because, the doctor is ruling it as natural causes, then why should you have an autopsy?
Right.
So, with that being said, after his family pushed for an autopsy, wasn't performed, Belle was awarded $8,500. Now, back then, that was about $240,000 today.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So
adjusted for inflation.
They got the house that burnt down insurance and the 2 children's insurance. Very, very common theme.
They're making quite a bit of money.
With Belle, yes, that is absolutely a theme here. With that money, Belle bought a farm on the outskirts of LaPorte, Indiana. So she's now here.
Oh, boy.
Yep, absolutely. It was reported that a boat and carriage house burned to the ground shortly after she acquired the property. I'm telling you, this bitch just lights everything on fire. She's like, oh, you don't want it? Oh, let me burn the hell out of it.
It was an accident. This is why we had to move. We're starting to get suspicious everywhere else.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh, there's way more. As she was prepping for a move from Chicago to LaPorte, she became reacquainted with a recent widower named Peter Gunness, also from Norway. Peter, a butcher by trade, married Belle in LaPorte on April 1st, 1902. Just a week after Peter's infant daughter died of uncertain causes while alone in the house with Belle. So she gets married alone with his daughter, and the daughter's dead in 1 week.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
That's no coincidence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's like, I don't know. Like, I was just shocked and astounded. Like, this woman is some other fucking level of evil. Like, just completely heartless. It doesn't matter. Children, men, she does not bat an eye. And it's pretty freaking scary. It's unbelievable, actually.
Twist ending. She's innocent the whole time. She's just under a curse and it just follows her everywhere. She didn't do anything.
If it were a bad movie, that's how it would end.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, this is giving me straight up stepfather vibes.
Yeah, exactly. So in December of 1902, Peter himself met with a tragic accident. According to Belle, he was struck on the head with a sausage grinding machine that had toppled off of a high shelf in the kitchen.
How'd that happen?
But when the coroner looked at the body, he muttered, "This is a case for murder."
He's like, this isn't.
This doesn't look natural. To make matters worse, one of Belle's children told a classmate that her mom hit her husband over the head with a cleaver.
You've been ratted out by your own kids.
Yeah, no kidding.
But will she kill them now?
You never know. She is a piece of work. Though authorities investigated, Belle was able to convince them, and no murder charges were ever filed. A year after his death, Peter's brother, Gust, took Peter's oldest daughter to Swinhild, Wisconsin. Never heard of it. But apparently he's trying to get the other child and getting her safe. She was the only living survivor that lived with Belle. So she was the only person that lived with Belle that actually survived.
Oh my God.
One person. Pretty crazy. Peter's death netted Belle another $3,000. So about $81,000 today.
Oh my God.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Locals around town refused to believe that Peter was that clumsy. He ran a hog farm and was known to be an experienced butcher. So, pretty suspect. The district coroner reviewed the case and found that Peter had been murdered. However, Belle had successfully convinced the investigators that she was innocent of any wrongdoing. At the time, Belle was actually pregnant, but didn't mention this to anyone. And that's where I kind of go back to where, like, I feel just how sneaky, she is and manipulative, that she probably didn't tell anybody when she was 18 that she was probably pregnant, I'm assuming, since she did it once. In May of 1903, Belle gave birth to a son named Philip. In late 1906, Belle told neighbors that her foster daughter, Jamie, had gone away to a Lutheran college in L.A. Yeah. Interesting.
Did she?
Yeah. Jenny's body would later be found buried and her adoptive mother's property. So that was weird. So I'm thinking to myself, like, did Belle try to frame her mom? Like, or did the mom do something? Because it was on her property.
No, the adopted mother would have been Belle, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's why I'm...
Did I read that wrong? Oh.
If it was Belle's adopted daughter,
then she would be the adopted mother.
Yeah, that was
correct. Okay, so sorry.
So she buried her on her own property.
Makes sense. Cool. Thanks for correcting me on that. That makes sense. So I thought she was trying to set people up and shit. Like,
no, she was just she just wasn't hiding it very well. She just did it right there on her own.
Just like property. There we go.
In 1907, so it wasn't found. So like that's the thing that was kind of hard with this is there's so much information that like. Yeah, Jenny's body wasn't found like right then. So not in 1906, but later on, she was found on the property. Right. I should have kind of worded that better, but there's so much information for
sure.
this. So
That's
this
nuts.
is also
Yeah.
my first time doing this. So in 1907, Belle employed a farmer named Ray Lampier. Now, Ray is an interesting person. He stays with this story pretty much till the end. So it's a name you're going to be hearing a lot about. Ray was hired to help around the farm, but word soon spread about around that their relationship was more than strictly professional. Yeah,
She's
so
doing a little rolling
she had a
in the
little on
hay.
side, yeah. When drinking, Ray often boasted about sleeping with Belle. People didn't view Belle around town as a typical lady. I guess that's to put it nicely. She often wore overalls around town and wasn't exactly a small lady. Some may say she was burly.
Very strong lady. She's from Norway. She had to get her way all the time.
She has that lug and body strength.
Not to mention a name like, was it Brunhilde?
Brunhilde.
Brunhilde?
Yeah.
It'd be like just the different version of that same name.
No, but that's definitely a bad bitch name.
Yes. So after a while, Belle became less interested in Ray. So soon she started submitting love ads in the local paper. Here's an example of one of the ads. This is actually an ad that she submitted.
Oh my God, please tell.
Yes. So it's, oh God, just her. So this is really cool because you get it's almost, it's her speaking, but you get to see, I won't even say anything. You just tell me what you think. Okay. So it's a personal ad. It was under personals. Commonly widowed who owns a large farm in one of the finest districts in LaPorte County, Indiana. Desires to make the acquaintance of a gentleman equally well provided with the view of joining fortunes. No replies by letter should be considered unless sender is willing to follow answer with a personal visit. Triflers need not apply.
Oh my God.
It's just brazen.
Yeah.
I was like, that's interesting.
You know what? I can't blame a bitch for wanting to, make her needs known up front.
I mean, she is up front. I mean, I'll give her that. I just like that triflers need not apply. I think
That is hilarious.
Adopt that as a slogan for my life now.
Yeah, right? No kidding.
Yeah. Well, that's just like fancier speech for what you see on any Craigslist anymore is like serious replies only. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's a good phrase.
But nobody's ever serious that replies. Soon after, several wealthy middle-aged men responded, actually. So they bought it. And not long time, Belle was soon going on carriage rides with strangers. On these rides and dates, Belle wore her finest clothes for these occasions. She was unrecognizable from the rough farm woman the locals are used to seeing. One of these men named John Moe from Elbow Lake, Minnesota, he brought more than $1,000 with him to pay off her mortgage. So she was getting her bills paid. I thought that was interesting. All right. Belle introduced John as her cousin to people around town, which I thought, like, what does John think of that?
Yeah, like...
He's like,
I thought...
I'm paying off your mortgage. Like, sharing a bed. But I'm your cousin? Like, what's that about? I guess he bought it with it, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, Belle had to be like a smooth talker or really charming.
She's a Scorpio, right?
She is.
That only makes sense. They're charming. They can turn on that charm real quick.
Well, after introducing him as her cousin, he disappeared from her farm within a week of his arrival. Yep.
Disappeared, huh?
Yeah, most people don't last a week with Belle. That's just kind of how it is. So, sorry, my laptop is being stupid. Next came George Anderson from Missouri. He told her that he would pay off her mortgage if they decide to wed.
Oh.
Yeah, this one's kind of cool. Late one night, George woke to Belle standing over him, peering into his eyes with holding a candle in her hand. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He later stated that the expression on her face was so sinister and murderous that he let out a loud yell and immediately ran from the house without saying a word.
Smart man.
Ran out.
Wow.
Yeah. Believing that Belle was trying to murder him, he got up and put on his clothes and just dipped. He ran out of the house without saying a word and booked the first train back to Missouri.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was out. He was gone. Wasn't having any of it. He didn't return for his belongings or ever to speak to her again.
Hey, he was the smartest guy out of all of them so
that
far.
one night, like, just he's out, you know,
Wow.
which is pretty crazy. I mean, but that's what kind of shook me is that the look that he literally said was so sinister and murderous that he's like, nah, fuck this shit. I'm out. Like, nope, we're good. You can keep my stuff. Don't care.
I can get new stuff. It's fine.
But after that, suitors kept coming by, but none except George were lucky enough to escape her farm.
Oh
so,
my
yeah, George
God.
is the only one that I found that was able to escape. So there's only 2 people really that escaped her. Well, technically 3, but we'll get into the third. In the meantime, she began ordering large trunks to be delivered and kept shutters of her home closed day and night.
Not making it very
No.
subtle.
Nope.
There, Belle.
Next up was Ole B. Budsberg. So it's like O-L-E and then B. Not Olby. An elderly widower from Lola, Wisconsin. He was last seen at the LaPorte Savings Bank on April 6, 1907, when he mortgaged his land in Wisconsin there and signed over the deed and took several $1,000s out. Yeah, so he signed over his land, which was that's what I'm saying. Like, what did Belle do to these guys?
That's what I'm wondering too. Like,
do all this.
I don't know. Does she give good blowjobs?
I don't know. I was like,
What's she good at? What is her?
I don't know.
What's your talent?
That's good enough for land and a couple $1,000s.
Well, if they're also older men and haven't gotten it in a while, maybe maybe that's all they needed.
Well, Budsberg family had no idea he went to visit Belle. Once they found out he had come to see Belle, they wrote her and she responded, basically stated that she had never seen their father, just denied everything. Yeah, several other men appeared and disappeared in brief visits from Belle's farm throughout 1907. And it's the other thing I was going to say is like, I mean, we're in 1907, you know, like she's doing a lot of this shit like within months of each other, you know, she's got people coming and going and just ordering trunks and burying them and yeah, all sorts of stuff. Pretty crazy. In December of 1907, Andrew Helgeline, a bachelor from Aberdeen, South Dakota, wrote her. The pair exchanged letters in 1908. Those letters, those typed letters from Belle convinced Andrew to come to LaPorte. So she had like a little pen pal and all that sort of stuff. And apparently she's good enough to lure him.
So how's her son doing with all this? All these people going in and out?
And that's what I kind of wondered too.
Poor Philip.
And I couldn't find information on that because, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, there's people going in and out, you know, her kids are there and all that sort of stuff. Like,
yeah, no kidding.
What are they kind of, you know, thinking about any of this? But again, it's so old that a lot of this information is just not there.
Yeah,
in January of 1908, Andrew came to see Belle, and he had a check with him for $2,900.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. A few days later, Andrew and Belle were seen depositing that check into her account at the bank. This time Belle began having problems with her farm hand, Ray Lampier.
Oh.
Yeah. So Ray's starting to get a little pissed off. So Ray was deeply in love with Belle and would do any chore she ever asked him, no matter how gruesome. Wink, wink. Wink, wink. Ray was jealous of all the men Belle had coming and going. When Belle introduced him to her soon-to-be husband, Andrew, Ray lost his shit and caused Belle to fire him. So yeah, she kind of canned him. He couldn't hold his own.
Wow.
She canned him, so she fired him on February 3rd, 1908. A few days later, Andrew was gone, and Belle appeared at the bank to deposit a $1,200 check. So a few days later, she's at the bank again by herself, depositing a check.
Oh my God.
Shortly after firing Ray, Belle tried to have him declared as insane, but she was not successful. So yeah, I mean, you know what she's doing. She's trying to like cover her tracks because, you know, Ray's got to be witness and shit. Same thing with the kids, you know, like I assume the kids are seeing all this, which I kind of am happy I couldn't find information about that. Because I mean, it's pretty terrible. Yeah. After she, had to have him tried to have him declared as insane. But she couldn't get Ray committed. And days later, she was on her land, and he was on her land and tried to have him arrested for trespassing. So she tried to commit him, and then that didn't work. And then he kept coming around, so she tried to get him for trespassing. Despite being arrested, Ray returned again and again to see her, but she drove him away every single time. Yeah. Ray once confided to a neighbor farmer that Andrew won't bother me no more. We fixed that. Another wink, wink.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Once Andrew's brother didn't return, his brother Azel, A-S-L-E, I think Azel, started writing Belle asking for his brother's whereabouts. Belle wrote back saying that he was not on her farm and probably went to Norway to visit family. Azel wrote back saying that he didn't believe his brother would do that and that he thinks Andrew's still in LaPorte. But Belle wrote back to Azel, welcome him to come search, but if he wants Belle's help, he'd have to pay her.
Wow.
So, hey, yeah, you look for your dead brother, but yeah, you're going to have to pay me. That's just like just a theme for this woman.
All about that money.
She loves that money. That's what she's there for. Damn.
Yep. So next, Belle presented herself to a lawyer in LaPorte named M.E. Leiter, telling she feared for her life and her children's lives too. Ray Lampier, she said, had threatened to kill her and burn her house down, and she wanted to make out a will in case he went through with his threats. So yeah, I find it interesting that she's saying he's going to do all this stuff, but it's like what she does.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
It's protection.
Yeah.
The will was completed, leaving her estate to her children. However, she never went to police to tell them about Ray allegedly life-threatening statements. So she hired a lawyer, but never went to the police. Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You know?
Means that she wasn't actually taking it seriously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because, first you would think you would file a police report, then go to your lawyer.
Yeah.
I mean.
She has all that money. She can spend it on a lawyer.
Yeah. Exactly. So in February of 1908, Belle hired a man named Joe Mixon to help her around the farm. A few months later, Joe awoke in the early morning of April 28th, 1908, with a smell of smoke in his room on the second floor of the Gunness house. He opened the hall door to sheets of flames and screamed Belle's name and those of her children's, but with no response. He then slammed the door and leaped in his underwear from the second-story window, barely surviving the fire.
Damn.
He raced to town to get help, but by the time it arrived, the house was already smoking ruins, and 4 bodies were inside the house. The headless corpse of a woman and her 3 children. On site was County Sheriff Albert Smutzer, who had heard about the Lampiers' alleged threats. Shortly after arriving, he concluded that the fire was not accidental. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So to kind of put this in perspective, she's going through and taking out these life insurance policies or putting, all that into her kids. And then a couple months later, the house burns down and it's just it's crazy. But if you heard what I said, a headless corpse.
I know. Yeah. So it's like, Ray, did you do that? Did you?
I don't know. Ray's not the nicest guy in the world. So after he declared it was not accidental, he then sent 2 of his deputies to dig in the debris, digging through the corpses that missing the head, and sent 2 others to arrest Lampier. So excuse me, let me rephrase that. He sent 2 deputies to dig in the rubble to see if they could find the head. But then while they were doing that, he sent 2 other ones to arrest Ray.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Sorry, I kind of butchered that.
No, it's all good.
When the former farmhand was brought in for questioning, he denied having anything to do with the fire. However, a neighborhood boy said he had seen Lampier running down the road from the Gunness house just before the fire started. So, yeah, Ray's looking a little suspect. So Ray Lampier was arrested for the fire. At first, the investigators believed the bodies to be Belle and her 3 children, Myrtle, age 11, Lucy, age 9, and Philip, age 5.
Oh, man.
Yeah. From the start, there were questions as to whether the headless corpse was that of Belle. The woman in the fire was 5'3" and about 125 pounds.
Oh.
And if you remember what I said before,
a big lady.
Belle is 5'9" and 200 pounds. So a lot smaller is that corpse than what Belle is. Let me see.
I mean, if it were burnt to a crisp.
Yeah, that's... So,
I'm sorry.
No, that's the same thing. I mean, I was thinking, like, can they figure that out by, like, bone density or length of bone?
I'm sure they could, but I wonder what type of technology they had back in the day. So it's like, how did you determine that?
Yeah, bones wasn't the show.
Well,
yeah, right?
They also don't say, like, how badly the body was burned. So it may have been, like, a partial burn. I don't know, but the next part is pretty interesting if I figure out where I'm at. Several neighbors and friends viewed the headless corpse and said that that was not Belle. So this is friends and neighbors are basically coming out saying, like, yeah, that's not Belle.
Huh.
The county brought in a local dentist that identified the body of Belle Gunness. During the investigation, Azel, the brother, arrived in LaPorte from South Dakota and told Sheriff Smutzer that he believed his brother, Andrew, had met with foul play at the hands of Belle.
Wait.
Yeah.
The dentist was able to identify?
Yes.
They found her head?
Without a head?
So, yes, and you'll learn later on, there were teeth next to the body without a head. Which is weird. Sorry, I didn't put that in the beginning.
No, that's
I left
all
that
good.
detail
That's
out.
interesting.
Yes, so there were teeth found next to the headless body, which, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Would Belle be that smart to like pull out her own teeth, set it aside, and be like, all right, it's me?
We will find out. So Azel became even more convinced of foul play when he went out to the ruins of Belle's home and watched as men digging for her head turned up 8 men's watches, assorted bones, and human teeth instead. So no head, but lots of other body parts. Azel yelled at the men to start digging around the rubbish in Belle's hog pen. As they begun turning up the earth, they found 4 more bodies, skillfully sliced apart and wrapped in oilcloth. Which I don't know what oilcloth is, but cloth with oil on it, I don't know.
Maybe so it burned.
One of these bodies belonged to Andrew Helligan, so Azel's brother. So Azel was out there when they found his brother along with 3 other bodies. Yeah, pretty crazy. Then a neighbor came forward with information that could not be ignored. He told Sheriff that Belle had ordered him to bring loads of dirt by a wheelbarrow to a large area surrounded by a high wire fence where the hogs were fed. So basically the hog pen is what I got from that. Yeah. The men filled several holes in the area, and several neighbors saw Belle digging in that area days before. Sheriff Smutzer then took a dozen men back to the farm and began to dig. So on May 3rd, 1908, the diggers found the body of Jamie Olson, who had vanished in December of 1906. They also found 2 unidentified children. As days progressed, the gruesome work continued, and one body after another was discovered in Belle's hog farm. Those that could be identified. So here we go. Here's a list of victims.
Oh, boy.
Olby Budsberg of Lola, Wisconsin, vanished in 1907. Thomas Lindbow had left Chicago and had gone to work as a hired man for Belle. Henry Gerhold of Wisconsin, can't even pronounce that city, had gone to wed Belle, taking $1,500. So a watch belonging to Henry was found by a body. So Olaf Savenherd from Chicago, John Moe of Elbow Lake, Wisconsin. His watch was found in Lampier's possession. So Ray had his watch. Olaf Lindblom was age 35 from Wisconsin. Benjamin Carling of Chicago was last seen by his wife in 1907 after telling her that he was going to LaPorte to secure an investment with a wealthy widow. He had with him $1,000 from an insurance company and had borrowed money from several other investors. In June 1908, his widow was able to identify the remains at LaPorte Cemetery by the contour of his skull and 3 missing teeth.
Wow. Well, she must have known her husband really well.
Yeah. Weird. Kind of crazy. So the unidentified bodies and unsolved mysteries that would emerge from these ruins would make headlines across the Midwest. More reports of missing men began to pour in from the surrounding Midwestern states, and relatives began to appear from all over the region to claim bodies. Some other potential victims, but were not 100% proven. So I felt like these needed to be included too, because they have ties to, that area, and they follow her MO. Like they very much do. So Christine Heikenvin of Wisconsin, or Christie, Christie.
Maybe Christy.
I don't know. It just threw me off. Sold his farm and came to LaPorte in 1906. Charles Nyberg, 28-year-old, in June visited Belle from Philadelphia with $500 in his pocket. John McChicken from Pittsburgh left his wife in December 1906 after corresponding with a LaPorte woman. Olaf Jensen, a Norwegian immigrant from Carroll, Indiana, wrote his relatives in 1906 he would marry a wealthy widow in LaPorte. Bert Chase of Mishawaka sold his butcher shop and told friends he was going to see a wealthy widow. Which, Mishawaka and LaPorte, that's not far off.
That's not too far away from us.
A man named George Bradley of Illinois is alleged to have gone to LaPorte to meet a widow and 3 children in October of 1907. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, these all have direct ties to that area.
Yeah.
And they vanished. TJ Teflon of Minneapolis is alleged to have come see Belle in 1907. Fred Redner, a farmer of Wisconsin, came to Indiana in 1907 to marry a woman but never returned. Emil Thiel, a Swede from Kansas City, Missouri, is alleged to have gone to LaPorte in 1907. Lee Porter of Oklahoma separated from his wife and told his brother he would marry a wealthy widow in LaPorte.
So that's how she traps people. She's like, oh, look at all the money I have. And you're going to be great, and it's going to be a wonderful marriage, and you're going to get a lot of money, too, out of this.
Yep, and that's how... That's just how it keeps going. And there's still more. Johnny Hunter left Pennsylvania on November 25th, 1907, after telling his daughters he was going to marry a wealthy widow in northern Indiana. It's all the same. Abraham Phillips, a railway man of West Virginia, left in the winter of 1907 to go to northern Indiana and marry a wealthy widow. A railway watch was found in the debris of the house. So 1907. She had guys just coming in and out. She'd axe one, in the next. Yeah. And it's quite impressive in a negative way, because obviously if this was nowadays, it'd be easy to get on a dating app and be like, yo, and just turning them out. Just keep turning them out. But if you think she had to send letters to these people, how many letters did this chick send out at once to have these response to where she can just keep churning them in. Just keep churning them in. It's
and that's so much work. I'm thinking this bitch had to drag people. I'm sure, well, she's a real strong lady, so I'm sure she did fine. But still, she had to drag these people, find places to bury them, which sounds like a lot of work. And you had to be original with some of the places that maybe you buried them at.
She had the land and the hog farm, easy enough to get dirt delivered to a hog shed.
It just seems like a lot of work. Why don't you just feed them all to the hogs? Yep. They would have cleaned them all up, right?
Well, we're going to get to that.
Some of them weren't able to be identified.
So most of the remains found on the property could not be identified because of the crude recovery methods. The exact number of victims unearthed on the Gunness farm is still unknown, but 14 of Belle's victims were pieced together with several teeth, bones, and watches left over. The number murdered is as many as 40 people. 40.
Wow, 40.
That's a lot.
And if they're all happening within 1907, it's like, ma'am, you had nothing but time on your hands then.
Yep. On May 22nd, Ray Lamper was tried for murder and arson. He pled innocent to all charges. His main piece of defense was that the body was never found of Belle. Ray was found guilty on charges of arson, but not in murder. On November 26, 1908, he was sentenced to 21 years in a state prison in Michigan City. He died there, from tuberculosis on December 30th, 1909. On his deathbed, Ray confessed to helping Belle bury many of her victims, but swore he didn't kill anyone and that Belle was still alive. Yeah, This is the little twist turn. Ray also said when a victim arrived, she made them comfortable by charming them and cooking them a large meal. She would drug their coffee, and when they were disabled, she would split their head with a meat chopper.
My God.
Other times, she would wait for them to fall asleep and go into their room and chloroform them. Like she did to the dude with the candle.
Yeah, holy
so
shit.
she probably, was going in there to do that, or maybe that was in the beginning and she had to adapt from that.
Yeah.
Because I know with a lot of killers, they have like a trial and error method. Like I know Gacy picked up a boy, his first hitchhiker, and the boy leaped out the side door. Then Gacy started locking his doors, so that may have been a thing where like he kind of changed his, MO.
Because he was able to get away.
Yeah.
Right.
She decided, well, now I need to make sure they're out.
Yeah.
Right,
So
no
after
kidding.
her victims were dead, she would carry the body down to the basement and dissect them, bundle the remains, and then bury them in the hog pen. She was too tired to do that sometimes. She would chop up the body and just plain old feed it to the hogs.
That makes sense. Yeah.
As for the headless supposed body of Belle, Ray claims that was a woman she hired from Chicago to be her housekeeper. She drugged the woman, then bashed her head in. Once dead, she decapitated the body and tied weights to the head and disposed of it in the swamp. So that's why it was never found.
Oh my God.
She then drugged the body to the basement and dressed her up in her clothes, removed her own false teeth, and placed them beside the headless body. Yes.
Ooh, so she didn't even have real teeth? Those blowjobs must have been nasty.
I know. Here's.
Wait, you think so?
Yeah.
It's a common joke that, no teeth because they get...
Take your teeth out. Take your teeth out.
Okay.
Take your teeth
Well, I
out.
was thinking with false teeth.
Oh, no. You
that
take 'em
sounds
out.
awful. Oh, that makes sense.
So
That's stupid me.
Yeah, this next part was probably the worst. So if you're sensitive to stuff with children, maybe turn away. But with that being said, she also chloroformed her children and smothered them to death. She carried them to the basement, and then she torched the small brick farmhouse and fled. So she straight up just like killed her kids, and just took them down there. And it wasn't like, some potential postpartum like Jessica Yates or anything like that. Like this was straight up no.
Yeah.
And this is after I've killed several other children, several other men, like a lot. Right.
She knew the jig was up. They finally are going to find her. Now she's a renegade. She's got it made.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she had the convenient excuse of Ray being the perpetrator of that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she knew what the hell she was doing.
Yeah, she's a smart lady.
Yep. So
terrible, but smart lady.
So Ray was supposed to wait down the road with a car, but not a car, but like I think a carriage. But Belle never showed up. Instead, he claims she cut across the field and into the woods. Ray claims that Belle's body count got up to 42 victims and that she made up to $250,000, $6.7 million today.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So this is interesting. Most of all her money was taken out of her bank account shortly before the fire. Throughout the years, there have been supposed Belle sightings, but none could be totally confirmed. Although some people that knew her had identified her from photos under different aliases, it was never, like officially proven, which is crazy. And then in 2007, a DNA test was performed on the headless body on the farm but they didn't have enough link to some of Belle's relatives. So to this day, the mystery remains unsolved.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
Well, I did the math. She was born in 1859. She's dead now.
Yeah.
She'd be 163. We're safe. Yeah. She's nowhere.
but yeah, so she got away with it.
Yeah,
basically.
That's what it sounds like, and that's crazy of an ending. You don't come across that very often. That the person just straight up likely got away with it. Yeah. And
that's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy, but that is the end of Belle Gunness. The Black Widow of the Midwest.
That's definitely a good title for her.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go first.
I was just gonna ask, has there been any movies or anything based on this story? It seems like there's a lot of potential
exactly.
there.
And I was thinking that as I was kind of going through. I did not look that up. I was so nervous about getting everything in a format that I could kind of, tell the story along as much as I could. I didn't even look that up, but that is something that I will look into and update you all before the next episode. So I will look into that.
And also, like, how did you hear about this case that made you interested in it? So
at work, I heard people talking about it because I work in Mishawaka, LaPorte not being very far away at all. And it's a kind of an underground known thing around here, but it happened so long ago that I don't think everybody knows about it. Like, I didn't know about it, even though I grew up in this area. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just the mystery surrounding it, hearing about the house being on fire, but then they were like, dude, I think like she was never caught. But then I didn't realize it was like 40 victims or 42 victims. Like, that's a huge body count.
That is a lot.
That is a massive body count. Like, if you just think like putting 42 people in this room, like that would take up this whole room.
Right. No kidding.
She annihilated those people off the face of the earth. Like, that's insane. That's insane nuts to think about. 42 people. And I also heard that like there's people that own the land now and they kind of get pissy when people go drive by there. So naturally I want to do it.
Yeah, right. Same. I'm like, is it okay? Can we do that real quick? Take a field trip?
And there's some pictures of her. She looks like a mean bitch, man.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at one right now.
She's got resting bitch face big time.
She's scary looking.
Yeah.
Look at the... she looks like a bulldog.
Yeah. She...
Cute kids, though. That's so sad.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty freaking terrible.
I actually pulled up this picture just because I was curious. Just because... When I was researching my case, I, as a funeral director, we use something called Find a Grave. Okay. And it helps us to find where certain people are buried at. And so I wanted to see, did she have a grave and has it been defecated on? Did somebody finally find her? No, apparently not. So here's what it is.
And that's Ray.
Well, that's Ray.
That's Ray.
Look at that mustache. I know you guys can't see it, but God, that's a mustache on that man.
Yeah.
He looks sketch.
Yes, he does.
But I guess no, that she still was never found. But what they put out in LaPorte County,
a marker of some kind of...
Yep, a marker. They have it written that, basically this is what's engraved on it. They basically said on the gravestone, in memory of the unidentified victims of Belle Gunness on the 100th anniversary of the discovery of her crimes, listed from 1908 to 2008.
Yeah.
So it was an ongoing investigation for a while. However, we also know where her children are buried at. They're actually buried somewhere completely far away.
Really?
Well, it's still, I think it's still in LaPorte County. But a different place entirely, like all three of them are. They are buried at Forest Home Cemetery, and this is in Cook County in Illinois. At Forest Park. And all of them, basically, their tombs, or not tombs, sorry, I should know better. I know my terms. Their headstones basically read something along the lines of, it basically says, murder victim, a young life taken far too soon. May these beloved children rest in peace. So they were buried somewhere else completely.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe was their father from Illinois?
Yeah, I don't know who would have gotten custody of the kids afterwards because their dad, right?
Died.
Dead.
Oh, okay. So
must have been some sort of relative or somebody that
can, Also, just a quick, I just decided to look it up right now. The only movie I could find is actually still in post-production, so I don't know when or if it'll actually come out. It's called The Farm, and it stars Tracy Lords as Belle Gunness.
Are you serious?
Oh, wow. That's cool.
That's awesome.
So, who knows? There's no date listed, so it might be a project that fell away, but
definitely
it says post-production.
Movie, though. I mean, that's reading that, I was like, holy shit, this is crazy.
No kidding. So also another, out of curiosity, what were some of the things that you heard at work? Was there any weird superstitions tied to the story of Belle, or was there any weird things that people reported afterwards happening on the land?
The strangest thing was just that here's this serial killer mass murderer, and she got away. Like that's it's pretty much common knowledge, you know, and that's what they were saying is like it was a headless body. Like she was never really fully identified and she took off.
Yeah.
So like she killed 40 women and someone like that, guess what, guys, does not stop killing. So there's other bodies out there that are tied to her.
That's what I was wondering too.
And
like,
what other areas she went to.
I'm sure she could have changed her name. She's dead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, she would have had to have changed her name. But, you know, just she would have done the same shit. I mean, she's been doing it for so long. Like, that's her MO. She would have done the same shit.
In early 1900s, there wasn't exactly mass media like there is today. If she just moved across the country,
try tracking.
no one would know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That is pretty nuts.
That's why it was so much easier to get away with murder back then.
Right? God damn it.
Well, that concludes the story of Belle Gunness.
All right.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what we should expect for this next episode, Ivy?
Well, mine is going to be on a case that I actually heard about on another crime, I guess, true crime podcast of sorts. It's actually a YouTube channel called Dreading. I just casually listen to it once in a while, especially long trips or anything going on like that. So I definitely wanted to shed some light on this one in particular because it is also an Indiana case that has happened, you know, and has really impacted a lot of Indiana state laws. As a matter of fact, it is the case of Sylvia Likens, a young 16-year-old girl who was brutally beaten by her caregiver. And it's a lot. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot to take in. And I'm glad that justice for Sylvia has been continuing to happen with Indiana state laws because it's meant to help protect children in a similar situation. But it's difficult, so be prepared.
Take a little break and then come back for that one next time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, with that being said, I hope everyone enjoyed this. You'll be hearing from us soon, and hope you like what we have in store. Thank you.